All right, this is week 3 of our series that's highlighting the power in belonging. This week, we're discussing the relationship between a sense of belonging and joy. I'm here with the exceptional Eric Knox. Eric is founder of Hala, which began as a mentorship program focused on changing the narrative for Black and Brown youth, and is now in its 3rd year being a charter school, which is a culturally specific school focused on changing the narrative for Black, Brown, and Indigenous kids. As I considered who to interview for this week's topic in particular, without needing more than 5 seconds of brainstorming, Eric Knox came to my mind. The moment I met Eric, he exuded tremendous joy, and I'm very excited to connect with you on the relationship between a sense of belonging and joy. All right, question number 1 for you. How has your sense of belonging contributed to growing your inner joy?
When I think about belonging, I think about, knowing and being known, and creating a culture and an environment that is specifically intentional about that. I champion therapy, which isn't championed enough, I think, in the communities that I serve, for a number of reasons. But I remember sitting down with my therapist and I asked him, I said, why am I like ridiculously passionate about these kids? And he has helped me unpack my childhood. In so many ways, I felt orphaned, even though I had parents. And he said, the reason why you're connected to this work is because orphans understand orphans. And a lot of these kids have experienced that themselves. And so we see mentorship going both ways. And that happens because we want to create a culture of people feeling connected, that they belong, that they're a part of something where they're seen, they're valued, they're cherished, they know, and they're being known. And so, when I think about my work and how belonging informs it, is to be a part of something that I wanted to be a part of when I was a kid. Simple. I wanted to belong to something. I experienced a lot of loneliness. I experienced a lot of abandonment. And so the work has created a sense of belonging to me because I get to be a part of a community where we get to patch up some of that stuff in our life.
And when we're doing something that is so deeply meaningful to us, we can't help but exude joy, right? Sure. That joy just seeps out.
Absolutely. Like when you're impacting someone's life, and that impact is impacting you as well. And when you're giving as much as you're receiving, that joy just bubbles over. You know what I'm saying? Because those are sort of patching up certain areas in your life that you long to have patched up. And you don't do it in a messianic kind of way, but you understand that transformation happens both ways. It's not, like I said, it doesn't just go one way. And so this work creates a lot of joy because we've created a culture of belonging.
Yes. Oh, that's so beautiful. Love that. Thank you, Eric. Question number 2. How has joy played a role in your accomplishments thus far? Kind of goes hand in hand.
I always tell people, like my goal was to get to the NBA. And I didn't. I had too many injuries. I played college ball. Wow. But I always thought it would be cool to do the thing that you love. And literally, I feel like I work in a space that I can't believe I get paid to do, honestly. Yeah. I just don't get the NBA money. But I love, there is so much joy. Like right now where I'm at, we're in a 24,000 square foot space right here on 145th and Stark. We just moved into this building. Okay. We've been here for about 5-6 weeks. Upstairs is Hala Mentors, downstairs is Hala School. Anytime I'm struggling, throughout the day, I walk downstairs and I walk through the classrooms and I see these beautiful kids. And it just creates a high degree of joy in me to know that I'm creating something meaningful, which is these kids being able to see themselves in the curriculum and see themselves in each other and see themselves in the teachers and see themselves in our in-class mentors and understand that we have a robust understanding of what we're about. That's why Downstairs, we do what is called the ABCs, which is every kid is abundant, every kid is brilliant, every kid is creative, and we do it with a high degree of joy. And so, me being able to do this work and understanding that these kids are having this kind of impact, and they get to be a part of something I long and yearn to be a part of when I was their age, brings a high degree of just joy in me.
Yes, I love that. I wish it was easier for me to access our program because our sites are, in different places.
Yes.
But even just yesterday, I was at one of our sites. I know exactly what you mean. I was frustrated with admin type, challenges. And then I go there and I'm like, oh, this is it. This is the
Put everything into perspective.
Yeah, yes.
Absolutely.
It propels you to continue
Yes.
that work and further it. Yes, love it, love it. Awesome. Okay, last question for you. What advice can you give to others for growing a community where there's a strong sense of belonging?
I can only speak to being culturally specific, right? And because this is the space I work in, Black, Latino, and Native American. People ask me, Eric, how do you handle your mental health? And I say, I watch a lot of Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, and Jamie Foxx, right? Because humor is pretty therapeutic in our culture, yes. Right? Joy is like, I remember like sort of in my own Christian faith tradition, they would talk about the difference between joy and happiness. And like happiness depends on happenings and joy depends on Jesus. Mm. I get what they were getting at. Basically, it's just this whole idea that joy is sort of this inner disposition, a resolve, a resilience that a person has. So in my space, we think about joy in three ways. One, it's a form of resistance, right? And resilience, right? Like in spite of the oppression, in spite of the anti-Black and dispossession and marginalization of Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities, we've been able to maintain our joy. There's always been an abiding hope inside of us, right? And nothing can take that away. No amount of oppression or historical trauma can take that away. Two, I would say like remembering, right? That's crucial, in terms of who we were, who we are, and who we can be, right? And having that inner disposition to understand, like I said, down in the school or as we do our mentorship, we always remind our kids that they're brilliant, they're beautiful, they're powerful, and we help them understand themselves outside of the institutions that keep them maligned or oppressed. And then the last thing is just, we want them to understand that they are much more than the stories of sorrow and suffering and lament. And there's an inner joy when you remind them that they are so much more than that. I don't know if it's okay for me to tell the story. I don't know how much time we have, but I give this story of my grandmother, who I never met, this Jewish woman who started actually the NAACP in San Francisco. What? Well, she didn't. Her grandparents started the NAACP. Okay. She went to NYU for art. And my Black grandfather, who grew up in the housing tenements of Harlem, got a writing scholarship, first in his family to ever go to college. He ends up going to NYU. They met, they fall in love. It's in the mid-1930s, and they had a hard time finding a state that would marry him. So they ended up going to Mexico City. They ended up getting married. And my grandmother got plugged into an art community. My grandfather was an educator in the school system. And the reason I didn't meet my grandmother was my mother was the oldest of her siblings, and she was on a play day at the house, and her friend was with her, and her friend's dad came to pick her up, who happened to be a doctor. And the doctor knocked on the door, and my grandmother answered, and he noticed a lump on her breast, and he told her she should go get it checked out immediately. She went and got it checked out. Turned out that she had breast cancer. They gave her 3 months to live. She died in a month at 4 to 5 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
So my grandfather was so crestfallen and broken and so sorrowful over the death of his wife that he stayed there, and his sister, my mom's aunt, came, picked him up and moved them to LA so my grandfather could grieve for a couple of years. But before my mom left, a man gave her a couple of paintings and said, your mother was an incredible contributor to our art community. and she was very gifted, and gave her at the funeral a couple paintings. So they went back to LA, and so I always saw those paintings growing up as a kid. To be honest with you, they were just ugly paintings to me. But my mother, who, I always say I get my hustle from my dad, but I get my my activism and actually my joy and my spiritedness from my mom for community work. Well, anyway, she used to always do a lot of community organizing and community events, and she would get permits. And in the fall, she would always have these. How should I say? She would have these leadership meetings to talk about these fall events, block parties that she would do. And so she would invite people, cook for them. That's just what my mom did. Well, her best friend had moved off the block at the end. My mom lived on one end of the block. Her best friend lived at the other end of the same block. And a new family had just moved in. And my mom, I'm like a sophomore in college at this time. My mom called me and told me that she had lost her job, that she had fell behind on her mortgage payment, and she was getting ready to lose the house. And she didn't know what she was going to do. But she said, hey, she was getting ready for this block party, and she was inviting all the leaders to come, and she'd call me later. Turned out that new family had just moved in. She went down just to ask them to come to her house and meet new people on the block. And so they came down, and my mom was walking them around the house when they showed up, just showing them. My mom always had these little art projects that she did. I think she probably inherited that stuff from her mom. But they stumbled on those two paintings she got from this man, and my mom was like, hey, these are two paintings. My mom died when I was 10. We moved to LA, told him the whole story. And the guy looked at the signature of the painting, and the signature of the painting said Diego Rivera. So my mom got a couple of pieces that are worth millions of dollars sitting on her wall as I grew up as a kid, not knowing anything. And this guy stepped back and said, say that name again. She said, Diego Rivera. And he happened to be an art appraiser. So he knew. And so he said, Claudia, if you sell any of these paintings, it will change your life. Wow. And my mom flipped out. And like, she couldn't believe she was sitting on millions of dollars worth of paintings. Oh. And she ended up selling the paintings, and it changed her life. But the thing that I think about growing up, to me, it was just paintings on a wall. For my mom, it had some sentimental value, but that was about it. Mm-hmm. And I said, once my mom discovered the true value and sense of the painting, her inner joy, mm-hmm. and how she interacted with that painting fundamentally changed because she understood. Mm-hmm. And that's the work that we are in. Like when we talk about joy and kids getting excited about who they are, and the way, them understanding their history, their culture, that they don't get taught in schools, that they don't get to see on TV, that they don't oftentimes get to see in movies, man. Once they have somebody show up in their life and show them the true value and worth of who they are, how they show up in the world begins to change. Yes. How they interact with themselves begin to change, right? And yes. So that's how I see myself, as this beautiful art appraiser that comes alongside kids and says, man, you got way more worth, way more value than you think you are. Let me explain your history. Let me tell you the rich tradition you come from. And to see their eyes light up, their countenance change, right? This overflowing of joy because they finally get to understand themselves fundamentally is something powerful and beautiful that I love to be a part of.
Amen to that. Yes. So powerful and so motivating to keep doing the hard work, right? To see that come out of them. That is so amazing. Thank you, Eric, so much for taking the time to share these incredible thoughts. And
thank you, Sarah. Appreciate you.
And hope to see you soon.
Yep, you too.